You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Well, Thanksgiving is over, although it's still holiday season because Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's coming. This is going to be one of the most exciting news periods in the history of the American Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah holiday season because of Elon Musk. And this week, the liberals' world is about to crumble. The liberals are going to have meltdowns like that girl at the Javits Center on the night that Hillary didn't come out and concede. Remember that? Remember that girl was crying?
You know, that was the beginning of their meltdowns, and how many have they had since?
It's been a nonstop meltdown.
Maybe thousands.
But the media, the left, the establishment, the uniparty, the corporate media, they're going to have those Javits Center-like meltdowns starting this week for the next many, many weeks, because this week, it's not all going to happen at once unless we're really shocked and surprised. I think there's so many that it's going to be over a period of time. But Elon Musk is going to unban and reinstate everyone who was banned by Twitter unless they did something illegal or he used a phrase, egregious spamming, which I'm not sure what that is, what that means exactly. But we're going to see potentially hundreds of thousands, 1 million or more people that have been banned. Some very famous people, Mike Lindell, Laura Loomer, Milo Yiannopoulos, and many others. And hundreds of thousands that no one's ever heard of, right? Because they're not famous people. And what's going to happen with the meltdowns that the establishment have and the liberals and everything, the entire dialogue on Twitter is going to change dramatically, and it's going to happen quick because these people that are reinstated, that have been banned from Twitter, some of them for years and years, are going to just be on a tear. And I get an example. Laura Loomer, when she was banned from Twitter, I don't know how many of you guys remember this. You guys remember what she did? She went to the Twitter headquarters and chained herself to the front door of the office building, demanding that they put her back on Twitter. And what did they do? They looked down and they laughed at Laura. Well, who's laughing now? And so it's going to be amazing. And the narrative as we know it today is going to be one that we like, agree with, and is truthful. But it's going to be a narrative that the left just destroyed. And what we're going to see is this mass exodus of a lot of people don't think the liberals are going to leave Twitter. I think they are. This week, there's two things happening this week. Elon Musk said starting this week, they're going to start the reinstatements. He didn't say all at once. Like I say, it's probably too many people to do all at once. But then the verification system at the end of the week is getting updated. Every individual, celebrity or not, who's verified gets a blue check mark. Celebrity. So the celebrities, now that they're not some elite special people, and then
but you still have to pay. That's a subscription, right?
You have to do the subscription to the Twitter Blue, which I'm subscribed to Twitter Blue. I got my blue check mark.
I thought he said something about a gold check mark or the different levels or something. Businesses
will have a gold check mark.
Okay.
Government agencies and government will have gray check marks.
Who determines that? Does Twitter put you in those categories, or do you apply to be? He said
it's going to be manual. I don't know how this is going to work. It's a lot of work. So businesses get gold, government gray, and all individuals, including celebrities, get the blue check mark. So celebrities were hoping that they would get some special check mark.
So whether you have a subscription or not, you're going to get a check mark.
I think you got to pay to the Twitter Blue. It's a little unclear. But with all of these things happening, especially the reinstatements of all these people, it's amazing because one of the content moderators did an interview that was fired, a fired content moderator who is responsible for banning a lot of people in particular that have talked about trans things and things like this. They're transgender. This transgender moderator was just banning people from Twitter that they didn't like or disagreed with. Yeah. And Twitter is alive again. Twitter was kind of slow for a while, and anyone that's on Twitter, engagement is up. More and more people are active. I'm hearing from more people than I have in years on Twitter myself.
How do you feel about him banning Alex Jones?
Well, I don't like him banning Alex Jones, but I get why he did, because I did not know that Elon Musk had lost a child. Right. And that's just something that he just, whatever. I know a lot of people, there'll be no free speech unless Alex Jones can be on Twitter. Listen, so we're going to stop our whole thing with Elon Musk because of Alex Jones. I mean, I'm not prepared to do that.
Well, the truth of the matter is Alex Jones profited off the death of kindergartners. That's true.
It was pretty bad.
And, but I
don't think that's why Elon Musk is.
Well, he lost his son. So
I don't think that's why.
It's personal with him. That's what he said.
That's what he said. I don't know, but I think it also might have to do with a lot of liability. Alex Jones has like $1 billion lawsuit against him, and maybe it would open Twitter up to possibly something if they let him back on there. That's what my guess would be, not the other thing. But this is absolutely amazing, and guys, you got to understand, what he's doing to Twitter has them so freaked out. I want to play this exchange. It's from CNN this weekend. And you're going to hear a lot of this. CNN, they had one of their anchors. It's not a famous anchor. He's a familiar face. I don't remember his name. And he has a guest on talking about the dangers of Elon Musk and Twitter. And the guy is a retired CIA analyst. And I've come to realize, not just now, I've known this for a long time. I've thought this for quite some time. All of the mainstream media and social media have been controlled by the CIA, NSA, and the deep state.
I think so.
I mean, that's just the way it is. I'm talking about the cable news, the nightly news, the newspapers, the social media platforms, the internet. And just to give you a little proof of this, or I don't know, proof, but part of my hypothesis, part of my theory, a little bit of evidence that backs up my theory. Remember when Al Gore, when he was running for president in 2000, said, I invented the internet. And that was partially true. It wasn't really true, but in a way, what he was talking about is the government had a system called the intranet, and they made that public to everybody, and that's when it became the internet. And so the government had this intranet system for I don't know how long. So the government, the deep state, probably are responsible for Bill Gates and Windows and the internet becoming public and everything else from the internet as a way to monitor and
it's a way to monitor people.
Monitor people and control the discussion, control the dialogue, control the narrative, control the flow of information. So Elon Musk taking over Twitter is turning that upside down. And I know a lot of people don't think these leftists are going to flee Twitter. You are wrong. They're going to flee en masse. They're going to do what conservatives were doing. They're going to be going to places like Gab and all these. They might go. I wouldn't be surprised. Let me tell you, this is a very big possibility that could happen. These leftists might find themselves on Truth Social. They really might, because other than Truth Social,
no way.
Oh, Kathy, other than Truth Social, these other platforms are not really user friendly, and they don't really provide you what you need if you're really into social media. Truth Social is new and it's still developing and everything, but it's the closest thing to Twitter out there, or Getter. Alyssa Milano and Meathead. They're gonna go to Getter. Maybe they'll go to Parler.
No, I don't think they're gonna leave Twitter.
You don't think so? I think they will.
These celebrities like to be heard.
Oh, that's for sure.
They like the attention.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to walk away when you have, Rob Reiner lives for Twitter. I mean, the guy is constantly tweeting, and he feels that people need to hear what he has to say. Nobody cares what he has to say. He hasn't made. When was the last time he did a movie?
Here's the thing about Rob
watching. He's directed some good films too.
Well,
he's a good director.
Here's the thing about Rob Reiner. This guy, he's up on high. He didn't make his bones in Hollywood. His dad is Carl Reiner.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and Carl Reiner, at the time when he was making his way out there, Carl got him all set up, Rob Reiner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob Reiner has not worked or made anything on his own. He is one of the most, and that's okay, but he's been in a very special class his entire life, and he's trying to continue that with Twitter. So let me play this exchange. So this is one of the CNN weekend anchors with the CIA analyst talking about Elon Musk and the dangers of Elon Musk and what he's doing with the Twitter.
That's raising some serious national security concerns. New Twitter owner Elon Musk.
Now, how is, Elon Musk, they say it's a national security concern, Elon Musk owning and running Twitter. Elon Musk not only sends rockets into space, just sent one to the space station yesterday, but he sends humans into space on his rockets at NASA through a contract with the government. So the United States government and NASA have contracted with Elon Musk to send rockets into space. How can you say someone is a national security risk that you're allowing to do this? And I bet you, Kathy, that Elon Musk has a top secret security clearance with the U.S. government because of his work with SpaceX and NASA. I mean, so to say that if someone's a national security risk and you're really worried about that, they could put anything on a warhead. I mean, they could put a warhead on a rocket. They could have just a regular rocket with no warhead on it and have it crash somewhere and blow up. I mean, so to say that he's a national security risk, while he just said, I climbed up on the roof of the house yesterday to watch a SpaceX launch from here in Florida. That's absurd on the face of it. But anyway, back to this.
That's raising some serious national security concerns. New Twitter owner Elon Musk says that he is going to begin restoring previously banned accounts next week. That includes users banned for threats and harassment. Musk
now that's not true. He said if you've broken the law, you will not be reinstated. So
right.
So threats is breaking the law. So that's not true. Harassment, that's a very vague term, right? I don't even know what they mean by that.
The decision after conducting an online poll. He tweeted, quote, "The people have spoken. Amnesty begins next week." And then in Latin, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Joining us now is CNN intelligence and security analyst Bob Baer. Bob, thanks for joining us. We hope you're enjoying the Thanksgiving holiday. I'm curious to get your reaction to these accounts being reinstated.
Well, Boris, I can tell you one thing.
Is this guy's name Boris? That's like a Russian name.
Yeah, Boris.
Is the CNN guy's name is Boris?
Yeah.
Well, Boris, I can.
And we're supposed to be worried about Russia with Elon Musk when we got this guy named Boris?
Well, Boris, I can tell you one thing. Putin is going to be all over Twitter.
This is the new thing with the left. Everything, they start talking about Putin. They inject Putin into everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even make sense. No, Putin's going to be all over
their
Twitter.
go-to.
Yeah.
It's just their go-to.
The go-to boogeyman.
Well, Boris, I can tell you one thing. Putin is going to be all over Twitter. If there's no regulations on this, fake accounts, spoofed accounts, the rest of it, this is a great opportunity for him. And so when he's talking about the popular voice, Musk, he's really talking about Russian intelligence.
This is just stupid.
It is stupid. Well, what they're trying to do is they don't like what Elon's doing, and they don't like these people having a voice. Mm-hmm. So what they're trying to do is put them in the category of misinformation, a danger to national security.
Even though he has rockets.
This is the narrative they're trying to give because they're laying the groundwork to go after him based on these things, that it's a risk to national security. He's opening up avenues and things like that for Putin or other world leaders. Let me tell you something. The internet is open to everybody worldwide.
And it should be.
Why don't they crack down on TikTok? That's owned by China.
Exactly.
They monitor it regularly. They don't seem to have a problem with TikTok. I mean, that is a bigger, if anything, security risk than anything out there. They actually track your data and all this stuff. What about Facebook? I mean, I have literally talked about, or Instagram, I've literally talked out of my mouth about a certain topic, and ads will show up on my Instagram about what I talked about 10 minutes later. That's not some kind of security breach or some kind of issue that I should have a problem with. Elon Musk giving people that are on the right a place to just express their opinions is some kind of a security risk. It's not a security risk if somebody expresses their opinion. In fact, it's the opposite, because you are seeing what they think and what they're doing out in the open. You know what I mean? It's not like some secretive thing, but he's trying to give the impression that there's going to be fake accounts, which is not true. Elon Musk.
He's weeding them out.
He's weeding them out. And he even tweeted the other day that harassment is down like 40% on Twitter because he's really cracked down on that. Look at this guy is so smart. They're not dealing with some idiot here. They're dealing with a highly, highly intelligent. He's an engineer. Engineers are intelligent people. He's very, very smart. And he knows what he's doing, but they're trying to paint him as a villain, and he's giving avenues to these other villains.
Well, let me get back to this. So back to the CNN interview with their CIA analyst on the dangers of Elon Musk, even though we let him launch rockets.
Accounts, the rest of it, this is a great opportunity for him. And so when he's talking about the popular voice, Musk, he's really talking about Russian intelligence. The Russians are waiting for something like this. They need a propaganda campaign against the United States and against our support for Ukraine. And they're going to be all over Twitter. I guarantee this. Supporting the far right plans, demands to stop arming Ukraine. You just wait.
Well, that sounds like a good idea to stop arming Ukraine to me.
Well, this Boris guy, he's on CNN, right?
Yeah.
And there's an article I put in your Facebook group about CNN. And for the first time, they are showing a profitability below $1 billion. I guess they have profits over $1 billion every year.
They have profits, CNN?
Yeah. Their profits are down like 40%. So nobody is watching CNN. Their views are way down. Their profits are way down. So nobody is listening to CNN and watching them. Their ratings are in the toilet. That's why there's going to be some major shakeups. And the reason that is because they talk about this Russia stuff over and over and over, and they tell you things that are just simply not true. They lied to you about Trump with Russia for 3 years. You heard it every day, 24/7 around the clock. Russia collusion, Russia. And now what do? They're going back to their Russian playbook.
That's right.
As if on repeat. There's going to be some major changes coming up by the new year at CNN because this whole thing that they're doing with conservatives being a risk to the country and Russia this, Russia that, this is not playing with the American people. The reason their views are down is because nobody trusts them or believes them anymore.
That's right.
Because when they say stuff like this, they look ridiculous.
Well, yeah. And then over the last couple of days, the liberals are now saying, well, we need to get Google and Apple to take Twitter out of the App Store. So Elon Musk said, well, maybe I'll just start my own cell phone.
There you go.
And Twitter is just blowing up with people like me who say, yeah, I'd love to have that super cool Elon Musk SpaceX. He already has in orbit all those internet satellites.
Well, part of the reason he said that too was to keep Apple and Google from removing that app because they don't want that competition. So if they remove his app from the Apple Store, he's telling them, well, then I'm going to start a competitive company and start making my own phones.
That's right.
People won't. So it would be in their best interest to keep Twitter in their store so he doesn't form a competitive company.
Elon Musk,
that's what he was letting them know.
He's from South Africa, as everyone knows. I am shocked that they haven't started trying to find some connection with his family and apartheid. They try to make Elon Musk these days sound like he's like the supervillain in Moonraker, the James Bond movie Moonraker.
Oh
He sends rockets into space, rockets to the space station. He put the American manned space program back in business, sending Americans into space on his rockets. He has his own network of satellites for the internet, that's Starlink, which, by the way, on our cruise in January, Liz, Steve and I are on, the internet is through those Elon Musk satellites. I'm really excited to use it. Yeah, I'll be using. I might do some YouTube videos just on that when I'm on the cruise. I'll think about it.
He might. Would he put his phones? Is that how they work cell phones on those satellites on those
I guess
networks?
They'd be like, I guess he's
setting up his own network like that.
He would probably have a satellite phone that you could use anywhere on the planet. And
that's what he's setting up here. I think.
This guy is not the richest man in the world because he's not the smartest. He's the smartest.
Smart.
He's one of the smartest men that I've ever seen. And no matter what, they throw at him. He's like, oh, no, I got an idea to overcome that. I'll just do my own phone.
Yeah.
You know, it's really amazing. And Elon Musk, his story of the way he's being treated by these people at CNN and all over the place is so much like Trump. All these people loved Trump till he came down the escalator and ran for president as a Republican. Elon Musk was loved by the liberals with the Teslas and everything else. And I just saw this online. I'd forgotten about this. On Star Trek Discovery, it takes place in the 23rd century, and they were talking about great scientists in human history, Einstein. And then they mentioned Elon Musk in the same breath as Einstein. Now he's this James Bond supervillain that they've got to destroy because
they're really afraid.
They don't control Twitter anymore.
Well, their need to control, which all liberals have, to me comes from two places. It comes from they all have an innate desire to dominate and to control people. I think that's across the board with liberals.
No doubt.
Or to be dominated. Some people like the government telling them what to do. So you have that weird dynamic. And another thing is just comes out of straight fear. They're afraid of people having a different opinion than them. They're afraid of the truth getting out. They're afraid of losing that control. And they're really desperate. But you know what they say, the tighter you hold on to something, the more likely it's going to want to be free. But that's how they are. They're trying to tighten their grip even more. And it's really backfired on them. And the pendulum, the culture war has really been swinging in our favor over this last year or so because they've become so controlling about everything and the messaging. And when things like this happen, it really highlights what they're really all about. I don't think this whole campaign of painting Elon Musk as a national security, this is not going to happen. This is not going to wash.
He's NASA. How can he be a security?
I mean, they love to throw out things. They love to accuse people of things, but nothing ever sticks because there's no there. And this is another campaign they're going on that's going to be fruitless.
That's right. Now, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
What would you do if you woke up in a place that was heavily alien and you had no idea how you got there? In the book from author M.K. Hussein, Fabric, Day One, Origins Unknown, available on Amazon, meet Max, who wakes up suddenly to find he's prisoner in a maximum security facility. He doesn't remember much, not even his name or why he's been detained. Somehow, he manages to escape the wretched place only to discover something far worse. The world is not how he remembers it before he had awakened. The past, present, and future have somehow collided into one. Nothing is the same as it was before. Trapped on this new world, he finds out he only has 3 days to live and only 3 days to find a cure. He has to walk through a mystical door that has only room for one. The only problem is he's not the only prisoner on the planet. What happens next? Find out when you read Fabric, Day One, Origins Unknown from author M.K. Hussein, available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback.
5527, runway 8 kilo, you're clear for takeoff.
Do you want to get your kids a toy they'll really love? The Kids Thrill Kids Airplane toy on Amazon is an exciting airplane ready for takeoff. Let your children transform into pilots and experience a fun playtime with the Kids Thrill Kids Airplane toy. It's perfect for kids of all ages who love airplanes. This toy promotes fun and engaging playtime as well as a creative imagination. The bright colors and wheels will help your children visualize the airplane's toy action like a real pilot. And with lights and sound, allow your child to learn motor skills and help them develop their creativity to stimulate their brain development. It makes a great gift, and the fun doesn't stop there either. Kids Thrill on Amazon have a lot of other toys too, including fun and educational toys for babies, toddlers, and children of all ages, including stacking cups, baby toys, toy trucks like their fire trucks, garbage truck, and construction trucks. The prices at Kids Thrill have huge discounts for the holiday season going on right now. Kids Thrill take great pride in their customer service and the quality of their toys. So what are you waiting for? Go to Amazon.com right now and search Kids Thrill for endless hours of fun for your kids. Kids Thrill on Amazon. Start shopping right now. Finding cool and unique gifts for the nerd in your life can be tricky. Luckily, LVL Uplife on Etsy makes it easy to find awesome accessories and apparel. Cuddle up with their Jack Skellington Nightmare Before Christmas throw pillow and their comfy Ditto Pokemon blanket. Add some interdimensional fun to any desk with their Rick and Morty mouse pad, stocked with Pokemon, League of Legends, anime, Rick and Morty, and much, much more. There's something for everyone. Give your friends and family, or maybe yourself, the gift of epic nerd accessories and apparel from LVL Uplife on Etsy. Go to Etsy.com and search LVL Uplife. That's all one word. LVL Uplife on Etsy. Order now.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. You know, this disease of Trump derangement syndrome is in every aspect of our lives where there's liberals. You know, there's a new season of Criminal Minds. You guys know Criminal Minds. It's been on TV for like 82 years. It's about FBI serial killer profilers. You know, and I watched this show many years ago with Manny Patinkin. I stopped watching this show like 10 years ago. But it just came back. They got a new season. It's been off for a couple years. It went off before the pandemic, and it's now on Paramount Plus, which we have Paramount Plus because that's where Star Trek is. And you guys know I love Star Trek. So, but anyway, they have this really good, and I'll tell you how the Trump derangements, it just messes up everything, right? They've got this incredible storyline going on, Criminal Minds. It's a new season. It's been off for a couple years. It's only available on the Paramount Plus app. And because it's on the app, it's a little more raunchy. You know, I mean, they use language, and it's you know, it's not overly graphic and disgusting because it's serial killers, but the language is a little more salty and more real. And they've got this really good storyline. And the storyline is there's spoiler alert, Criminal Minds, spoiler alert. Okay. All right. Not that anybody cares if I spoil Criminal Minds. But anyway, they've got this really, really good storyline, and I think is like a fascinating storyline. They got a serial killer doing some serial killer stuff, and then they find out that he's connected to a serial killer on the other side of the country. And then what they find out is this: is that there's a network of serial killers nationwide that are working together, and they have this really cool storyline about it. They said during the lockdowns, serial killers didn't have anyone to kill because no one was going outside. It was hard to stalk and nab people during the lockdowns. So they were all stuck, locked down. And most of these serial killers seem to be like out in California and Washington State and stuff and these things. So they really locked down.
Go way down during the lockdowns.
Yeah.
For sure.
So during the lockdowns, this is the storyline in this new season. During the lockdown, these serial killers started networking online and teaching each other their tricks of the trade. And I watched the first episode. It's really, really good. And they got this one character. It's, you know, it's kind of like in the 80s, you know, like in Lethal Weapon and in Beverly Hills Cop, they always got the lieutenant who's always on their case. Yeah. Even though they're the best super cops catching all the bad guys, they always got the lieutenant who's yelling at them. They got this deputy director of the FBI who's kind of that. And they can't figure out why he hates them. And I'm original. Like, and I'm thinking, this is so unoriginal. They got this guy. I mean, what is this?
I can't stand that.
What is this? 87? You know, I hate that thing. So then I watched the second, but I said, you know what? The show's good. It's great storyline. Very interesting how they brought in the pandemic with it. It's plausible. And then in the second episode, there's only 2 episodes so far, but I watched them both. In the second episode, they find out why this guy's harassing them all the time. He wants to end the serial killer task force because he's the deputy director of the FBI, and what he wants to do is go after the real threat, which is domestic terrorists.
Oh boy!
They don't say MAGA. They don't say MAGA.
But that's what they mean.
But there's some subtle hints that now I will say this: at least he's the villain. He's trying to change the direction. The villain is trying to change the mission of the FBI away from catching like serial killers and stuff to like MAGA. But that, I just tell you, this Trump derangement syndrome is in every aspect of our
It is completely
society.
permeated.
MAGA are not domestic terrorists.
It is, well, this is the narrative they're going with, and Elon Musk, this whole thing is falling under that umbrella.
Yeah.
And it's permeated every aspect of our culture. You would really be hard-pressed to find a new show written in the last 3 years that does not have some anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, anti-conservative message. We even saw the new Star Trek show, Strange New Worlds, which is a good show. And in the first episode, they referenced January 6th.
They showed.
Which is crazy.
They actually showed on
actual footage.
Footage of the Capitol breach
and
on
you
Star
were
Trek.
Floored. And
I was really upset about it.
You just cannot get away from this.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere
there's liberals.
They're using every tactic, every avenue, everything they can to just, it's like a slow drip or sometimes a faster drip to try to get it in your head that these are bad people. They cannot be trusted.
Yeah.
And we don't really watch children's shows anymore because Emily's all grown up. I wonder if it's permeated even that kind of stuff.
I'm sure it has.
Now I think with children's entertainment, they're going more in the way of the pro-gay, the non-binary, pro all this stuff. They're going down that avenue to get kids on board with that whole thinking. But I wonder if they're getting into any kind of this kind of thing.
Now, I
could see it.
I don't want to get into this too much because it's developing, but I do want to mention it because I don't want people to think I'm ignoring it. This visit that Kanye made to Mar-a-Lago to have lunch with President Trump, and he brought this Fuentes guy who I have heard of.
He's the one Marjorie Taylor Greene went to an event with.
And she got kind of tricked into going to this thing.
She got tricked and she got really ripped for that.
And I don't know too much about this guy. All I know about it, I know three things, right? He went with Kanye to have lunch with Trump. He got into Mar-a-Lago. This thing that Kathy just said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guess she thought she was going to, I don't know. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. And that they say he's a Holocaust denier, which is a terrible thing to be.
Absolutely. I don't know anything about him.
But I don't know too much about him. The thing about this guy, though, people are like, how could Trump do this? How could Trump do this? Okay. Let me tell you how this happened. You got to really ask yourself this. How does a guy who is known as a white supremacist, neo-Nazi Holocaust denier. I'm not saying that he is that or isn't. I really don't know who this guy. I know that all the articles say he's a white nationalist, Holocaust denier, and I'm going to accept that. That's a terrible thing. I would not welcome a neo-Nazi Holocaust denier into my home for lunch. So how did this happen to Trump? And why did Trump allow this? I imagine Trump's pretty well informed, but I don't think he knew who this guy was or what it was all about. I think Kanye West did a very good thing for President Trump during his first term. Remember that when Kanye went to the Oval Office live on television with President Trump, that was just a beautiful, insane, crazy, wonderful moment. And
I would not bring Kanye into my orbit.
Let me tell you.
I was a famous person. I think you're asking for problems.
But President Trump. I'm going to tell you how this Fuentes guy got into Mar-a-Lago, okay? And no one's talking. I've been watching the coverage all weekend, and no one has said what I'm about to say because I know exactly what happened here. Now, so far as Kanye's been a good friend to Trump, right? What he did when he was in his first term and everything, and Trump is very loyal to his friends, so he welcomed him in. I don't think Trump knew who this guy was. I barely know who he is. In fact, if I just heard his name without all the Holocaust denier stuff, I might say that name sounds familiar, but I don't really know who he is.
Yeah.
And this is what I think happened. I think the security screwed Trump over. I think the U.S. government security, when people go into Mar-a-Lago, they go through checks with the Secret Service and they do these FBI background checks. I think that the feds didn't properly background check Nick Fuentes, or they did and let him go in anyway to get Trump in a situation with a Holocaust denier neo-Nazi. I think Trump was set up. Now, so far as Kanye, I know you're saying, well, Kanye brought it. Well, Kanye's weird and does strange. I don't know why he's hanging around with a guy like that.
I don't either.
But I'm telling
You're
you
asking for problems.
that the security let this guy in on purpose. I don't think Trump knew who he was, just like most of us don't know who he is. And I think his government security knew who he was because he's on all their list. Let him go in there so that Trump would sit down and have lunch with this neo-Nazi Holocaust denier. I think Trump was yet again set up. Now, Kanye didn't help. He shouldn't be traveling around with someone like that.
Well,
and disrespecting us and President Trump by bringing him to Mar-a-Lago.
I agree.
So Kanye has
I feel like it was a setup.
Well, yeah, I think what happened. I'm not saying that the feds planned the trip with Kanye. I think that if anyone else, if he would have showed up anywhere else where there was security like that, and it wasn't Trump, they would not have let the white supremacist in.
I don't know what the vetting process is with Trump and getting into his inner orbit.
They got to do a security check on people.
Whatever it is, it needs to be better.
No, I think it is good. I think his security, Kathy. No.
Because they would have alerted him to who this guy was.
You missed. I get. Maybe I'm not saying it properly.
Maybe not.
I think that they did do a background check and knew exactly who he was and let him through anyway, so that Trump could get bad press with associating with a Holocaust denier.
Well,
that's what happened.
Most people that work for the government are liberal. We know that.
Oh, yes.
Even cops. Most cops are liberal. Sorry. And most of these Secret Service agents are probably liberal. They're government workers. But whatever the case is, we did a poll on your community page about this on Brian's YouTube and community. So you could take the poll, and I asked people, and we had 2,000 votes, and we asked people, should Trump have had Kanye over? Most people said yes. And I personally don't think he should have had Kanye there. He's an anti-Semite, and Trump has Jewish grandchildren, and I just don't think it was a good idea to have him there. He's, he brings a lot of drama with him, and I don't think it was a good decision to have him there. But anyway, he said he was giving him business advice. Maybe that's true, and Trump's a nice guy, and maybe he thought he was just helping him out. But he might have to be a little more careful about what he does.
Kanye might have gone there to talk to him about this Parler purchase, because he's got his own social platform.
Who knows? He said he was talking about his businesses because the reason his businesses are faltering is because he's been saying anti-Semitic things.
Exactly, Kanye.
That's why. So I think having Kanye there, I personally, if I had a Jewish family, grandchildren, and my daughter was Jewish, even if they weren't, I don't have Jewish family members, I wouldn't be comfortable having an anti-Semite in my orbit. I'm sorry. Especially with so much bad press around him right now. I just, and then it just got revealed that he was at work and he showed explicit photos of his ex-wife to everybody. I mean, why have somebody like that around you? I don't understand it, but whatever. He did what he did. But let's keep it in perspective here. Obama went to Reverend Wright's church for years.
That's right.
I mean, that guy is a problem. He has said very awful things. And Obama willingly went to his church.
That's right.
And
wouldn't condemn him.
And wouldn't condemn him.
Wouldn't even condemn him.
He's had pictures with Farrakhan, who's a known anti-Semite.
That's right.
But the media have no problem with that. So Trump has lunch with a guy that he didn't even invite, that somebody else invited, and they're making way too big a deal out of this. I think Trump needs to be a little more careful who comes into his world. But I think the media is overblowing this. And look at Hillary Clinton and Biden. They're praising that one guy that was in the Klan, that senator. They spoke at his funeral and all this stuff.
Robert
Byrd, but that's okay.
Yes, that's okay.
But Trump having lunch with this guy that he didn't even know. All of a sudden, this is like a big disaster. And the problem is the GOP is attacking Trump, of course, because they want Trump out just as much as the liberals. So they're going to jump on anything, and nobody wants to defend a white supremacist. But they need to come out and say, look, Biden, Hillary, Obama, they have all had issues with people that are of the similar ilk and had relationships with people like this. Let's keep it in perspective. Trump does not hang out with this guy. He's not in his inner circle. He welcomed him to his home because Kanye brought him, and he was being a nice host. That's it. It's nothing more, nothing less. I mean, it's ridiculous. Clearly,
sure is.
Trump is not an anti-Semite. He has Jewish grandchildren. I don't think he's a racist or a bigot at all.
Of course not.
But I think it was not the smartest move to bring Kanye to his house, considering what's going on with Kanye right now. I think it was not a great idea. And I think Trump needs to be a little more careful he gives the press so much ammunition sometimes, it gets a little frustrating.
Yeah, now I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of this and every episode. And there's also a direct link on my website, briancraigshow.com. And there are perks if you become a Patreon supporter. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout out on each and every episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Coral Springs Gary. Just got a text message on Friday from Gary. Made some very interesting points. ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, and Rome, Wisconsin. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all. And again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link on my website, briancraigshow.com, and a direct link in the description of this episode. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there is a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be right back.
The newly released poetry book, Broken Wings Can Fly Too, from author Paulina Sophia, engages in free thinking and challenges the constructs of our society. This must-read book helps readers gain a new understanding of womanhood and nature. Order now. Broken Wings Can Fly Too, from author Paulina Sophia, available in Kindle and paperback on Amazon. Music lovers, there's a hard rock band out of Perth, Australia on YouTube that you're going to want to check out. Interflow on YouTube at Interflow Official. They combine their musical influences of the 70s and 90s rock into a style of music that's energetic and entertaining. Interflow began honing their craft and perfecting their songs while gigging around Perth and Fremantle. And in October 2020, they released their debut EP, Influence. Interflow are fast becoming known as one of Perth's best bands. Check them out on YouTube at Interflow Official. Subscribe and share Interflow on all of your social media so your friends can subscribe to Interflow Official, the official channel of Interflow on YouTube. Comedy podcast fans, there's a podcast that will have you on the floor laughing. Gene and Ozzy bring you the company of two fun-loving and joke-cracking old friends. They're two old friends that discuss all kinds of things, but no controversial subjects and no politics. It's a fun and clean time you can count on to make you smile. It's perfect for your drive to or home from work. Take a break from the stresses of life and have a chuckle as you listen to Gene and Ozzy discuss your favorite topics.
Hey, I'm Gene.
Hola, I'm Ozzy. Welcome to the Gene and Ozzy Show.
Did you want to be Darth Vader?
Never.
What?
No, that was not my favorite character on Star Wars. And sometimes you had no idea how to even play the game. I can't describe Joust to you. I had no idea what that game was all about.
Stuart had more toys than I did.
You know, I got to meet the Stuart one of these days. Is he alive?
He's still alive. He's our age, and
at our age, you got to ask: is he alive? Like the kids ruled the world in the 1980s. Everyone,
we ruled the world in the 1980s.
Yeah, of course, parents still beat us to death, but we felt like we had the upper hand on.
Parents had the real control, but in our brains, we ruled the world. The thing about my Aunt Lizzie was she had a smoker's voice.
And it was like this. And see your Aunt Lizzie.
Sounds like you were alfalfa in school.
Oh, it was terrible. Beyond your imagination how terrible I looked during school days. What were the shoes that we would wear in the 70s and 80s?
Buster Brown shoes.
Buster Browns. Buster Browns.
The Gene and Ozzy Show, brought to you by your favorite host, Gene and Ozzy. Find these two funny guys on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Add the Gene and Ozzy Show to your playlist right now.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Make sure that you follow us and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to us on. And, of course, the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms. So whatever podcast platform you use, we are on it. Just search for the Brian Craig Show podcast.
This is scary to me.
What's that?
Our daughter flies JetBlue a lot.
Yes.
And did you see where this guy was flying JetBlue? He was charged with carrying a straight edge razor onto the plane and holding it to a woman's throat mid-flight. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure. It says he placed his hand in front of the woman's screen and told her to pause her movie. She took off her headphones and realized he had his hand clutched with what appeared to be a knife inches from her skin at her throat and neck.
Oh, my goodness.
What is going on with people on airlines these days? I got to talk to my sister because she's a flight attendant for a major airline, and she's been a flight attendant for 25 years. Is violence on the rise? I mean, I feel like taking a plane is like taking a bus now. I mean, is violence on the rise in planes? Or is it politics that people just angry all the time? I don't remember anything like this happening when we were growing up, or when, I always felt very safe flying. And now it seemed, or is it just being reported in the news more? Every week there's like an incident on an airplane.
I think most of it is because these incidents are captured on someone's cell phone, so they make their way into the news. Because there's usually video of them, sometimes a still photograph.
True.
So I don't think there's more problems on planes. I just think
recorded more.
It's recorded and we're seeing it more. Yeah.
Tell us in the comments if you guys have experienced any like violence like this recently on a flight, where something happened where you see people running up and down. Now, I will say this. My sister was on the local news. I don't know if you remember this, a few years ago. And she had texted me said, I'm going to be on the news at 6:00. And she had to subdue a crazy guy who was naked.
She has handcuffs
on her flight. There was an air marshal on the plane, and somebody recorded it. And my sister was in the video. And it was, I don't think it went on the national news, but it was on the local news. It was crazy. And I asked her, does that happen often? And she said no. She said it's very, very rare that something like that occurs. And this was about 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm just wondering, but I think you're right. I think maybe people record more. But she told me up until that point, she had never experienced anything like that. But I'm going to have to ask her if this is like becoming more and more common. I'm wondering if it's happened to you guys. I don't fly, so
it might help if they stop serving alcohol on planes. Some of it's got to be alcohol.
I don't know if it'll ever come to that because they make a lot of money off that. Booze is very expensive. You get a little tiny thing for like $8, but that would solve a lot of the problems is if they stop serving alcohol. But I don't think that'll occur.
Now, you don't hear too much about cults anymore, unless it's the Trump derangement syndrome sufferers telling us that we're in a cult. The cult of Trump, we hear that a lot. But you used to hear stories all the time about people that were in cults. They were getting rescued from cults. Their families would rescue them, and then they would do deprogramming, right? You ever heard this, deprogramming of people that were in cults? They've made movies about it, and it used to be a big thing. Listen to this. A Manhattan pharmaceutical heiress says that her mother... Her mother had to hire a $300 a day deprogrammer to help her unlearn crazed woke views after she was brainwashed while attending an elite college, Mount Holyoke College. Listen to this. A Manhattan pharma heiress said her mother had to hire a $300 a day deprogrammer to unlearn the woke views she was brainwashed with at an all-women's Massachusetts college. Annabella Rockwell, age 29, graduated from Mount Holyoke in western Massachusetts in 2015 and said it drove her to drink and made her briefly become estranged from her mother, who threw a vase during one of the arguments. Prior to attending the elite school to study history, which charges $60,000 a year, Rockwell said she grew up in a traditional household and considered herself to be open-minded. However, the politics minor, because she majored in history, political science minor. However, the politics minor claimed the all-women's school totally indoctrinated her into thinking she was an oppressed victim. The professor tells me about the patriarchy. I barely knew what the word meant. I didn't know what she was talking about, she told the New York Post. I was someone that I wasn't someone that was into feminism. I just knew that I felt I had always been free to do what I wanted. I never experienced sexism, but I was told there was a patriarchy and that you don't even understand it's been working against you your whole life. You've been oppressed, this heiress, right? You've been oppressed, and you didn't even know it. Now, even though you didn't know it, you have to fight it. And I just went down the rabbit hole, she says. I saw everything through the lens of oppression and bias and victimhood. I came to the school as someone who saw everyone equally. I left looking for injustice wherever I could and automatically assuming that all white men were sexist, which would, I guess, include her father.
Yep.
That rabbit hole, which started when she took a gender studies class in her junior year, left a deep division between her and her mom. She felt she had to educate about the real state of the world, including writing her manifesto that claimed her mother treated her like a wind-up toy. In her post-graduation manifesto, she wrote a manifesto. She accused her mother, who she said once considered her best friend, of never loving her. My thoughts were no longer my own, she told the New York Post. I left school anxious, nervous, depressed, and sad. She said her professors encouraged alienation from parents and even offered their homes to stay in. They'd say things like, don't go see them. Come stay with us for the holiday.
Oh, my gosh. She should sue that school.
Oh, yeah. Most of my classmates believed all this stuff, too. If you didn't, you were ostracized, the former competitive figure skater told the Post. In addition to the alleged brainwashing.
That's what cults do.
Oh, yeah.
That's what cults do.
It is a cult.
They divide,
it is a cult.
They divide you from your family, from your loved ones, and they want you to disassociate from those people and come into their world. And they separate you by telling you things like this. I mean, this is exactly what cults do to people.
She said some freshmen cut their hair into the moho chop, which is a radical assertion of their LGBT identities.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I know. Rockwell, who grew up in the Upper East Side of New York, did not participate in this ritual. Conservative commentator Laura Loomer, said the entire culture there revolved around hating men and being a lesbian.
Yep.
Loomer attended the school for one semester.
Oh, wow.
And left for alleged bullying. Wow, this is amazing. During her short time, I didn't read this far in the article before. During her short time at the school, another anonymous student wrote, I hate Laura Loomer post to the confessional at the school. Loomer said her sister schools, it goes a big list of them, are also designed to be these elite institutions. You know, here's the thing, okay? Conservatives, we've got to do a lot of changing. We have allowed the entire education system to be taken over by leftists. And, you know, we've got to start recruiting people to become school teachers and college professors. And if we start recruiting people to become school teachers and college professors, they'll eventually become administrators. And the American school system is as liberal as it is because conservatives are focused in on, you know, business and work and not teaching and things like this.
Well, let me ask you
and we've
this,
allowed this
though.
to happen.
This is a private school, so it's permeated private schools, especially these very. I mean, Megyn Kelly pulled her kids out of their $30,000 a year school, but I wonder if the parents. A lot of times with these private schools, and even in public schools, parents. You know, I understand they're busy; they work a lot. My parents worked a lot when I was in school. They did. The only time they asked me about school was when it was time for report cards. That's it. They never went to parent conferences. Yeah. They were not involved at all. They dropped you off and they assumed everything was fine. I wonder if the parents saw any of this happening with her. This didn't just happen overnight. This was like a long process with her. I'm sure it took a few years to fully brainwash her. Did they not see her little signs of this happening? Did they not pay attention? Yeah. If you don't encourage people to do this, like you said, teachers or whatever, or go into this field yourself, if you're in college, at the minimum, you need to know what's going on in your kids' schooling. And I've always said this, look through their books, look through their folders, look at their lesson plans, get involved, go to parent-teacher conferences, if you notice any change in their behavior like this, where they start talking like this and dismissing the values you raise them on, those are red flags. And I'm glad her parents did something, but this is what cults do. Well,
that's why she hired the deprogrammer.
Yeah, well, good for her. I wonder how long that took.
Okay, here's the thing with this. The parents, because they're from the Upper East Side of New York, they're probably liberal.
Oh, I'm sure
but this college is even too liberal for them. You know what I mean? So they didn't realize what was going on until it was too late. But here's the thing. There are many aspects of our society that we have allowed the liberals to take over.
That's right.
We were just talking about the education system. That's one, and it's a big one. Mm-hmm. But we also need to encourage young conservatives to go to film school and get jobs in Hollywood. We need to encourage young people to become actors and actresses and directors and producers in Hollywood. They can make their way in. They just got to go to film school and do it, like these other big shots like, Spielberg and George Lucas and Spike Lee.
The problem is, though, if they get in that world, will they be brainwashed too?
Well, yeah, I know it's
young people are very
I get
susceptible.
But all these areas that the liberals dominate, conservatives, we've abandoned them and allowed it to happen. And we've got, and I know it'll take decades and decades to make a dent because they're so entrenched, but we've really got to encourage people that are conservative to get into the arts, get into the media.
You know what I think it is?
And get into education and all these things.
It's not that conservative parents don't care. They do. They care more than anybody. But they work a lot. A lot of them own businesses. They're entrepreneurial. Some of them have 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
And I know when Emily was growing up, you had a couple jobs, and I was working full-time.
I've never had just one job. I've always done other things.
But it's not just that. Conservatives don't have as much of that activist mindset because we're into freedom. We're into live and let live. We're into let people make their own decisions and let them have independence. Liberals are into brainwashing and controlling and dominating. So conservative parents are probably a little more lenient and a little more loose with things like that with, let them figure it out and let them do this and that. I don't want to get too involved. I don't want to be a helicopter parent and all this stuff. You don't want to be a helicopter parent. You don't want to raise your children to be afraid too much or, be totally dependent on you like these snowflakes that live in the parents' basement until they're 35 years old. But you do need to be informed and a little more involved, especially with minor children. And like I said, if you send your kid to a school and college or whatever, and they start coming home and they start, having anger towards you or towards your family, it's okay for them to have a different opinion. But if it really affects their behavior and how they feel towards you, then you need to intervene, or either cut them off completely and say, you're losing your mind. I'm not going to give any more of my money. Or sit down and talk with them. And, because this girl's lucky that her parents did this and helped her. But like she said, most of the students at that school fell in line. And what's going to happen to them? I mean, this is like what Scientology does.
That's
like
exactly
Tom
right.
Cruise's kids don't even talk to Nicole Kidman.
That's right.
He doesn't even talk to his one daughter, I think, because they're not in that group. So this is what cults do. They alienate you from people who don't think like them.
That's right.
And they take control of your life. That's really, really sad.
No, that's what they do. And, this girl, I don't know if she's a conservative or a liberal, just a more together liberal than this hardcore wokeness. But all of these areas that are controlled by liberals, the government, the bureaucracy, that's your local DMV. We've got to stop ignoring these things as the conservative viewpoint is the mainstream viewpoint in this country. I know it doesn't seem that way a lot of times, but it is. But the reason it doesn't seem that way is because in all these very out front and vocal places, whether it's the movies or television or the news or professors, there's just all liberals.
Yeah.
Because when we have somebody that's smart enough to become a college professor, they start a business. If Elon Musk were a liberal, he would be some physicist, engineer working at some university on some project.
Yeah, getting government grants.
That's right. So our great minds and great people don't get into these things for all these different reasons. Well, listen, guys, we're all out of time for today, but we will be back next time. I'm Brian Craig. Always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.
Want to know where all the bodies are buried? Author Robert Allen Miltenberg holds the key to that question in his book, Pool Boy to the Mob, Everybody Out of the Pool. Author Robert Allen Miltenberg holds the key to that question in his book, Pool Boy to the Mob. Welcome to Mob-Ammy Beach. This book is a fictionalized account of Miltenberg working at a mob-owned Miami Beach hotel in the 70s. If you're a fan of The Godfather, Goodfellas, or The Sopranos, you will love this story that's full of colorful characters and wisecracking wise guys. It's a story with everything from Playboy bunnies and weaponized parrots to shattering the glass ceiling and getting away with murder, all in paradise. This is a wise guy tale you've never heard. Surrounded by pools, the trick for Bobby Moskowitz was not slipping in the one thicker than water. Bobby lived to tell the tales, and now you can read all about it. The funniest mob novel since Jimmy Breslin's The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. Pool Boy to the Mob, Everybody Out of the Pool, from author Robert Allen Miltenberg, available on Amazon. Order your copy right now.